Here in number 14, there's two ways we can work this one. Here's one way. I'll just go straight down. We could just square the inside, getting 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. There's one way. And another way, I'll do it horizontally here, is that we can use the definition of square roots being squared, and that's going to be that when you take, you know what, I'm going to write this down here. So the square root of x squared is equal to the absolute value of x. It's not just x, it's the absolute value of x. Now, when we apply that up here, right, we got the square root of squared, so we're going to get the absolute value of x. Now, x in this case is this number, that's what's being squared, so we'll get the absolute value of negative 6, which is 6. We get the same result either way. For 15, let's apply the distributive property. So we'll get 3 times 4. So we'll start here with 12. And then we're going to get x to the, I'll write the whole thing here. It's x to the 2/5 times x to the 3/5 plus, and then when we multiply over here, I'm just going to go ahead and multiply the 3 and the 5, getting us 15. But then it's going to be our x to the 2/5 times x to the 8/5. Now, here's two powers with the same base, so we can just add the exponents. So we're going to get x to the, I'll do every step, 2/5 plus 3/5 plus, same thing over here, 15x to the 2/5 plus 8/5. So this will give us 12x to the, now what have we got here? 2/5 and 8/5. I'm sorry, 2/5 and 3/5. That's 5/5. So we're going to get x to the 5/5 plus 15x to the, and then what do we have here? 2/5 and 8/5 is 10/5, so we'll get 10/5. We can simplify these, right? Because 5/5 is 1, so we're just going to get 12x to the 1 plus 15x to the 10 divided by 5 is a 2. And one more step here. We're not going to write this 1. Just get rid of the 1. So we're going to write this as 12x plus 15x squared. Now in 16, we're going to distribute also. Right here we'll have square root of 2 times square root of 2. And we know when you multiply our square root by itself, the radical comes off. So in fact, we don't need to write that radical. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 is just 2. If you want to multiply under, because they're both underneath, square root of 2 times 2 is 4, square root of 4 is 2. But we know when you multiply a square root by itself, the radical comes off. Now, when we distribute over here, this 2 is inside, this 2 is outside. They're going to stay that way. So this is going to be minus 2, that's this 2 right here, and then a square root of 2, which is that one right there. And that's it. That's as far as we can go with that. Okay, look at this one carefully here. This is a negative outside of the square root, so this one's okay. So we're going to write this as negative the square root. Now, what about that 27? Can we break this 27 into two numbers, one of which we know the square root? So what are we thinking here? Well, we know 4. 4 doesn't go into 27. Then we know 9, 16, 25, and so on. Now, 9 does go into 27 3 times. So let's try 9 and 3. We'll get negative square root of 9. Now, break them apart according to our rule. Square root of 9 is 3, so we're getting negative 3 square root of 3. That's it. Now, don't confuse this. This is not this problem, the square root of negative 27. If it was this problem, this one here is not a real number. Number 18, we're raising powers to powers. Now, first of all, we've got a power here, right? This whole thing is to a power, and what's inside is multiplication. So we can distribute this 20 to each one of those factors. So we're going to get x to the 1/4 to the 20th, and then y to the 2/5 to the 20th. Now I'm writing every step, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute this 20 here, the 20 here. So I'll get, this thing here to the 20th, this thing here to the 20th. And now we're raising powers to powers. So now we multiply the exponents. Just have to remember those rules of exponents. So it's x to the 1/4 times 20, y to the 2/5 times 20, and let's see what we get here. So when we make these multiplications, we can do it like this. 4 will go into 25 times. 5 times 1 is 5, so we'll get x to the 5, y to the, now, 5 goes into 24 times, and then 4 times 2 is 8. So x to the 5th, y to the 8. Now we're going to try to simplify this radical expression number 19, and notice that the index is smaller than each one of these exponents. So it's like we've got too much stuff in here. We can only put no more, not even 5. We have to put less than 5 things in here, and we've got too many. So let's take some out, and here's how we determine to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this index and divide it into each one of these exponents. So let's analyze this. I'll do it one variable at a time. So for x, we're going to get the index 5 into the exponent 7. Do you see it here? 5 into 7. So we're going to take this 5 into the 7, and that will go once with remainder 2, right? 5 and then 2 left over. So what this means is that we can take 1x out, and 2 will remain under the radical. Now let's do the same for the y's. So for the y's, let's analyze the y's. We'll do the index into the exponent. See what we're doing here? I've got the index 5 into the exponent 23, and 5 will go into 23 4 times with remainder 3, right? 5 times 4 is 20, 3 left over. So that means that we can take 4 y's out, and 3 will remain under the radical. And then for the z's, let's analyze that. Index into the exponent, so we've got a bunch of 5's. This 5 comes from the index, and this 5 here, that's the exponent. And 5 will go into 5 once with remainder 0. So that tells us that 1 z will come out and 0 z's will remain under the radical. So let's put it all together and see what we can write here. So we're going to bring 1x out, 4 y's, and 1 z. So we can take 1x out. Let's see if we can get it here. 1x out, 4 y's, 1 z. Let's see if we got it, right? So 1x will come out right here. 4 y's will come out right here. 1 z will come out right here. And then what's left? Well, we still have a 5th root, so let's not forget the index. So we're going to have the 5th root of, now what remains here? 2 x's, right? 2 x's remain, so we'll put 2 x's down here. And then 3 y's remain, so we're going to put 3 y's in here. 3 y's in here. And then no z's, so no z's, so I guess we're done here. So we're just going to write it to look like this now. And we're saying that this form here can be written more simply as this form right here. There's 2 ways I can think of to do number 20. Here's probably the easiest way for this one. I'll just do this one horizontally. They're both square roots. The 12 and the 3 are both underneath the radicand, so we can just multiply underneath. So give us square root of 36, which is 6.